Hello and welcome to another episode of the Working Conversations podcast, where we talk all things leadership, business communication, and trends in organizational life. I'm your host, Dr. Janel Anderson. I'm recording this episode in late September, just a few days before the running of the Twin Cities Marathon. What does that have to do with anything? Well, in 2004, I ran the Twin Cities Marathon 18 years ago. It was a grueling adventure, a bucket list item. And as I ran it, I had a little piece of paper in my pocket that was laminated, and it had the name of a specific person that I was running each mile for. That helped me get through the miles. And not too long before that, I really hadn't thought of myself as a distance runner. I ran charity 5Ks for fun and fitness, and for many years I had done that, and I certainly did not think of myself as a distance runner when I was running those 5Ks. But somewhere along the way, that changed. And in fact, I can remember exactly when. My BFF Heidi and I had run our first 10K together. After successfully mastering those 6.2 miles or 10 kilometers, we looked at each other and high-fived. And then I looked at her with this astonished look on my face. And I said, Heidi, we are now distance runners. And boom, right there, my identity changed. I declared something about myself. And in declaring it, I brought it into being. Yes, for sure, I had put in the hard work and logged the miles. But the act of declaring that I was now a distance runner changed my conception of myself. It changed my identity fundamentally. This, my friends, is the power of the word, the power of your word, the power of what you declare for yourself and who you declare yourself to be. Now, before you start thinking I'm going to get all woo-woo on you in this episode, which I certainly could, let me bring this back to how we communicate at work and how we get work done. What we declare about ourselves and our work and how that impacts our identity, our confidence, our reputation at work, and our work accomplishments, both the big and the small ones. What we declare about ourselves at work brings it into being. So today we're going to tie this to software development teams, to promises made to colleagues and managers, and to your personal integrity and the promises you make to yourself. Of course, any and all of this could apply to who you are outside of work just as easily as it applies to your working life. And I want to encourage you to feel free to apply it wherever you need it the most. So let's go back to running for just a little bit. And I must add, the Twin Cities Marathon is the most beautiful marathon in fall with the trees turning color and the crispness in the air. It is a joyous experience. But back to that run and when I declared myself a distance runner. When I did take that leap and declare myself a distance runner after Heidi and I had run that 10K, you know what? It made it much easier to get up in the wee hours of the morning before work to put in those long runs, because that's what distance runners do. They get up early and they put in the miles. Casual runners don't do that. Distance runners do. This gets at my identity and how the words that I use to describe myself shape my identity, especially when they start with these two most important words, I am. I am declares our identity. I am declares what we are going to do and how we refer to ourselves. There are references to I am in the Bible and many other spiritual texts and traditions. The power of declaring something into being is as much spiritual as it is practical. See, I told you I could go all woo-woo on this topic. But let's bring it back to the realm of business. Take software development, for example. Over the past couple of decades, it has become increasingly common for software development teams to use a methodology called Agile to write, test, and deliver software products. Without getting too far into the weeds on the methodology itself, I'll spotlight a particular kind of meeting that is a fundamental part of the process: the Scrum stand-up meeting. The term Scrum is borrowed from the game of rugby. It's a formation of players in which every player has a role. But that's not the part I want to focus on here, even though that is important. The part I want to focus on is the stand-up meeting or huddle. It's called a stand-up meeting because traditionally people do stand up as they would in a huddle. And that's an important part of what keeps it a short meeting. You can get too comfortable when you sit down, but when you stand up, it's not going to be a long meeting. So it's meant to be a quick meeting, a stand-up. The agenda, in most cases, is the exact same every single day. You go around the group of people who are in the stand-up meeting and you say what you got accomplished the previous day. You declare what you're going to do today. And if there are any known obstacles in your way, you share those also. In declaring what you're going to do today, you are crafting an I am statement. Your declaration has your word behind it, and your word is your integrity. Are you someone who does what you say you're going to do? Well, if you're regularly in a stand-up meeting, we will find out tomorrow when you report back on what you said you were going to do today. The same thing happens with managers in one-on-one meetings, whether they be weekly or bi-weekly, or sometimes not even but once a month. In those meetings, it is also quite common that you declare what you're working on, what obstacles are in your way, and what you are going to get done next. And then when you circle back with your manager the next week or the next bi-weekly meeting, you then declare what you got done. Again, in declaring it, we are much more likely to get it done. We human beings like to be people who got done what we said we were going to do. We don't like to compromise our integrity. We don't want to show up to that meeting and say we didn't get it done when everybody in that stand-up meeting heard us say yesterday what we had planned on getting done, or what our manager heard us say last week that we were planning on getting done. Now, why is this relevant? Why is this important? And why should you care? Well, whether you're declaring something about your identity, such as I am a distance runner, or whether you're declaring what we're going to get done today, such as I'm going to record an episode of the podcast, or I'm going to reach out to 3 clients, or I'm going to fix this particular bug in the software. When we do that, we are making a specific declaration and we are bringing something into being. In either case, whether we are declaring our being as in I am a distance runner or declaring our tasks for the day, we are creating with our words. If we are a person of our word, then our actions will follow. In fact, it will be harder not to follow through with the task at hand, whether that be getting up early to log the miles or getting the work tasks done that we said we were going to do. It will be harder not to follow through when we have put our integrity on the line by stating out loud that we are going to take action. So how can you use this in your daily life if you're not part of a Scrum software development team that regularly has the stand-up huddles? Well, there's lots of different ways that you can get into the practice of stating your work and stating your identity. So let me talk you through a couple of them. Now, I've done this in both formal and informal ways. And even though I don't have a daily huddle or Scrum team meeting each day, I do these in my work life just about every day now. So let me tell you an informal way to do it. So occasionally, I will do a co-working session with another entrepreneur or another speaker. Sometimes we do this in person, either at our home office or sometimes at a co-working space. And sometimes we even do it over Zoom, of all things. When we do this on an informal basis, we start by setting how much time we're going to work. So maybe we're going to have a 2-hour working session. And at the beginning, we'll say, okay, in these 2 hours, I plan on making progress on the following tasks or getting the following tasks complete. And we'll say exactly what we're going to do. Then we'll set a check-in structure. We'll check in at the top of the hour, and then we'll check in again when we're 5 minutes from completing our 2 hours. And then we get a chance right then and there to state what we got done on the tasks we were planning to do. It's super exciting and really fun because there is a certain energy about not wanting to let yourself down in front of somebody else who is your peer. So again, you could do this in a corporate role as well as in an entrepreneurial role or a speaker role like I'm in. Have a partner, set a time frame, state what you're going to get done. And again, that time frame could be a full day. You could check in every day about this, or you could do like I do with some of my entrepreneurial and speaker friends and just do this for a couple or a few hours. Declare what you're going to get done and then go do it. Again, because your reputation, not only to yourself, but now you've raised the stakes, you've got somebody else involved and they know what you're planning on getting done. Now, in my business, Working Conversations, which is the name of the podcast, as well as the name of my company, we recently started doing a more formal process of this. We call it Declare Our Day. It's a Declare Our Day practice. Now, we use Slack as a software tool that we use for most of our day-to-day communication, and we created a Declare Your Day channel. That's what the channel is called, Declare Your Day, where we are encouraged to, but not required to, declare what we're going to get done in the business each day. And of course, we each have different roles, and so we're doing different kinds of things. Many of those things are interdependent. So it's great to be able to see what somebody else is working on so that you know how it's going to impact when you can get done the next thing that you need to do that might be related to a task somebody else is working on. Now, above and beyond the interdependency, for me, it proves to be an incredibly powerful tool, especially because it's my employees that I'm declaring this in front of. So even this particular episode of the podcast is proof that it works. Now, as I mentioned, the Twin Cities Marathon is coming up soon. And right now, as I'm recording this, it's the very tail end of the workday on a Friday. And I would very much like to be outdoors enjoying a beautiful autumn late afternoon. And I will eventually. But first, I am, as you can tell, recording this episode of the podcast. Why? I could have put it off till Monday or Tuesday, maybe even smuggled in over the weekend, even though I try my best not to work on the weekends. But why am I recording this late on a Friday afternoon? Because I said I was going to do it when I declared my day in our Declare Your Day channel on Slack. I declared it, so my word is on the line. I declared it in front of my staff, and my words are there for them to see if I got it done. Because as soon as I get this podcast recorded, you know what happens to it? It gets uploaded 2 different places. One place for my content manager to do some work on it and write show notes and start to craft next week's, or I should say the week's messages on social media that go along with this podcast. And it also goes in another place to my podcast editor, who's going to make me sound great and do the audio engineering on the episode. So when I declare that I'm going to do it, I had better do it and put it where I said I was going to put it so that they can do what they need to do with it. So again, for me, it proves to be a very powerful tool, whether I'm using it informally with one of my speaker or entrepreneur friends, and especially when I am doing a Declare Your Day practice with my staff. So there's lots of different ways in which you can bring something into being. Ways in which you can bring about an I am statement. And in fact, that's how we start ours in the Slack channel. Today, I am going to, and then it's a simple bulleted list of no more than 3 to 5 items. It is not the entire to-do list. It is the top priorities for what are going to get done today. And I just wanted to add that so that you get a flavor for it. It's not a laundry list of everything that I might have on my plate. It is my top priorities. And again, for my staff, it is their top priorities for any given workday. And then there's formal check-in processes where we can see if each other did the work that we said we were going to do. So I invite you to join me on this process of creating some I am statements, and they might be big fundamental statements that have something to do with your identity, like I am a distance runner, or they might be much more informal, smaller practices of the important things that you're going to get done on any given day. So here's how I invite you to join me. If you want to play this game with me, send me a direct message on Instagram and tell me what you're going to do today. I'm Dr. Janel Anderson over on Instagram. That's DrJanelanderson, Dr. Janel Anderson over on Instagram. That's the best place to reach me. And let me know what you're up to. And by you declaring it so, together, you and I will make it happen. We'll make it so. All right, please play along. I can't wait to see you over on Instagram, and I can't wait to be part of you bringing to life whatever it is that you want to make happen in your world, or any big shifts you might want to make to your identity by declaring them so. So I'll see you over there on Instagram. And until next time, my friends, be well.